house, the date of the construction is still unknown. We just say roughly 1820s. Could be in the late 1700s. We do not know. But over the course of the history, it's transferred owners. The road out in front here, Route 29, was known as the Warrenton Turnpike. As a traveler, you would have to pay the toll here at the stone house. Then when war came, this house became an aid station. That is why we have the red flag. It's documented that a red flag down from the stone house after the first battle for an aid station. The Union and Confederate wounded were both present here during the first battle, but it really got its notoriety and for history purposes during the second battle. It was at the time behind the line, main Union line, but on the late afternoon of August 30th, 1862, Robert E. Lee launched a major counterattack seeking to destroy the Union Army. The fighting would end up right there on Henry Hill where the first battle ended, right out that window. The Union wounded were brought to the stone house. The two soldiers brought here were part of the 5th New York Volunteer Infantry, the Zouaves. Their commanding officer was Colonel Gouverneur K. Warren. So if you know anything about Gettysburg, he becomes a general. He becomes on the staff of General George Gordon Meade as the engineer. He's credited with the saving of Little Round Top. Well, he's only a colonel here in 1862. And his men are down the road on 29 here, about another mile and a quarter, at a place called New York Avenue. They were not expecting to receive any attack at all during this battle. And they're caught pretty much unawares and off guard, which is the story of the entire Union Army here at 2nd Manassas. They forgot all about Longstreet and the other half of the Confederate Army. The 5th New York, around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, numbered about 580 men. When Longstreet launched his counterattack, the Texas Brigade led the way, led by John Bell Hood. They numbered about 1,200 to 1,500 men. They catch these guys on a barren ridge, which is what New York Avenue is. At the time, no water is kind of grown over. And in 15 minutes, half of these men are killed or wounded. This soldier here was Private Eugene P. Geer, G-E-E-R. He was 17 years old at the time of the battle. This was his first and last battle of the American Civil War. He just joined the regiment about 2 weeks prior, and he will die about 10 to 12 days after being wounded on the 30th of August. The other is this soldier here on the baseboard, Charles Brim. It's his last name, August, A-U-G, and then there's a faint marking. He was 21 years old. He was wounded enough so that he would be medically discharged. He went back to upstate New York and he would live out his days and pass away in the early 1900s, but he's a broken man. Alcoholism, depression, and everything else that went along with him. So that is the two stories. This house would have hundreds of soldiers in it and around it as the battle literally raged right out that front window. If you can imagine, on the evening of August 30th, about 6:30, from about that time to 8:30, you could see what was happening on Henry Hill. And if these guys tried to raise their heads up, they could get hit again. There's documentation of hearing the bullets ricochet off the stone. Some of them that were outside got hit again before the Confederates just completely overwhelmed and drove the Union Army off the field and in retreat, which led to the downfall of John Pope.
Now after the battle, it didn't last 12 days, did they leave the Union troops here?
No. After the Confederates moved and still in pursuit of the retreating Union Army, then you have your provost marshal that follows behind, the Confederate Surgeon Medical Corps. They would take care of whatever Union dead or wounded. Those who were not severely wounded or grave or minor wounds would become prisoners, sent to Richmond, Andersonville, a couple places in South Carolina. So that's what would happen to these guys, and then they would wait for parole, because the parole system was still in effect, and then eventually they'd be returned. So they would be stuck in this area for a while before they're then transported away. Yeah, if you're here, you're most likely died here and then buried in a shallow grave outside someplace.